Discount Podcast.
Welcome in, you cheap beggars, to Discount, the bargain bin gaming podcast hosted by three people so small we might be the positive review section for Skull Island, Rise of Kong. I am just a quiet man fitting a new prosthetic into my arm from a man sculpting Buddha idols. I am the wolf. I'm plugging into player 2.
Just fighting crime with everyone's favourite elements: smoke, neon, concrete, and video. I'm Darren, hello. And pulling some funky-ass shapes in front of the Kinect.
I've been rolling around with zombies since 1981, and now I'm tuning up to help you hide from serial killers with a big metal hand. It's Karis.
I like how Karis always, gets on us for claiming she's old, but she has just admitted she was born in 19.
Yeah, you were.
Oh, 1991. I was
So
born,
old.
not 1981.
It was weird though. I saw a very quiet beginning to get really, I'm really excited. And then you started getting excited about it.
Because it was metal hand. You
Who
got
are
to
you?
build up to the metal hand.
Was it Ash? you
Ash
were?
Williams from Evil Dead.
Does he have a metal hand? I thought he just had a chainsaw.
In Dead by Daylight, he has a metal prosthetic hand.
Oh, okay.
His dad called Fire Williams. So he is the Ash.
Darren.
Oh dear. You can see the shit-eating grin on this man's face.
Darren.
That is my name, yes.
That was pathetic. But yes, hello everyone.
was class.
And welcome to another episode of Discount. Turn it off now.
Honestly, that's good advice for any of our episodes.
We are here with another fight episode. This is an episode where we buy each other random bargain video games and then we fight over which is the best one based on a certain prompt. Just to show that we don't have to buy AAA titles every week because it can be mighty expensive to do it that way.
Yeah.
But we still want to buy each other games because we play too many games.
And we're all friends.
Sometimes we are friends. But yeah, well, this week. I want to talk about what we're going to do, but should we go back and look at the last episode?
Yeah.
The first episode of season 1. Cast our minds back to the wonderful prompt that was
That was turn-based.
turn-based. Yes?
Season 1.
Yeah.
Did I say season 1?
You said season 1.
The first episode of season 1.
First episode of
Side-scrollers.
First episode of season 3. Turn-based, and let's open the vault. Let's open the vault, guys. All of that was a bit bumbled because I couldn't remember who had won the vote, and I remember the last time I'd looked, it was a tie. So I was like, I have to go back and check.
I'll be honest, a bit bumbled on our end because I forgot the vault was coming.
So,
yeah, me too.
The vault was one of those things that just came out of the blue for all of us.
I'll be honest, I got caught up because after you fumbled the season 1 thing, I was just reminded of that time when Josh dissociated mid-sentence.
All right. Yes. Not important. Let's continue on.
Love a bit behind the scenes.
So season 3, we skicked off. We skicked off with turn-based games where we bought each other Yakuza Like a Dragon, Dragon Quest 11. I can't remember what the.
Echoes of an Elusive Age.
Thank you. And Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist, Link Evolution.
Yeah.
That's the whole title. I can't remember if there's more there. And we all had a fairly good time. And we all thought they were all pretty much turn-based games. So it was hard to argue. There. Now, with that being said, we have turned over to the public to find out which is the best game.
Yep.
According to our episode, the most entertaining game was Yakuza. The best value for money was Dragon Quest. The most accurate was Yu-Gi-Oh! So it was really anyone's go. Which way do you think that the people who voted went for?
I hope Yu-Gi-Oh! Was last.
You hope Yu-Gi-Oh! Was last?
I think Yakuza is going to win personally, but
Okay.
I am inclined to say Yakuza. I've got sort of a sub-hope that Dragon Quest did well.
So Dragon Quest jumped into a very early lead. It had 100% of the votes when only one voted cast. From that point on, it did horribly. And it was actually tied between Yu-Gi-Oh! And Yakuza until about 20 minutes ago, where someone voted for one or the other. And the winner for our first Vault game of Season 3 is Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes, I thought it would be.
Who the fuck's voting for Yu-Gi-Oh of that collection?
A lot of
Moment.
people.
Wow.
I really thought Yu-Gi-Oh was going to win, and I thought I am ready for this to be the day that I see Darren flip this table.
We had double-digit votes. Like there was quite a few people voting on my
Yeah.
story about it. I didn't even put up 2 different polls this time.
Mentally trying to think of who would have had to stream Yu-Gi-Oh.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. I
no
mean,
idea.
you said I'm doing it next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just hope it's only
when-
you that has to suffer through
Or
that.
when this comes out 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
So, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is going in... Not Yu-Gi-Oh! Just to fuck over Darren, I'm ignoring the vote.
Just like Yakuza 1, but I am God here.
We're going to put Yakuza Like a Dragon into the vault, which I think is absolutely
Really
fine.
good
Yeah,
game.
it's a good.
Is that the
it's a good
second
vault entry.
Yakuza-style game to go into Judgment make it in on its week?
Judgment did make it in.
So
on
there's the
yeah.
second time. So maybe the fans of this show are all very big into Sega.
I was worried. I forgot Judgment came and went. I was worried that like Fist of the North Star went in. I was like, what?
Actually, what won that anime episode?
Ni no Kuni.
Oh, that's all right then. That's all right then. It could have been 3
Yeah.
for them, but we got 2. That's fine. Should we close up the door and just
Yeah.
get into the genre
Let's do
then?
it.
Yeah.
Come on, close pocket gravel, everyone. So yeah, that was all of the last episode, which was turn-based.
Yeah.
But this time we got a different prompt, obviously. And the prompt this time, Keris, was
Augmented limbs.
Augmented Limbs. And Darren, what does that mean?
Limbs that have been augmented.
Yay!
Hooray! That was so simple. But yeah, what does that entail? Does it? It's basically, it could be any...
I love 2-word prompts because you just flip the words around to describe it basically.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What's augmented limbs? Limbs that are augmented.
Love
Bam.
I think it's quite an open topic, is the way I looked at it.
Yes,
It's, it could-
Limbs that have been sort of improved or altered in some positive way normally is how that's intended.
Yeah.
Yeah, an augment. I mean, I imagine is an improvement in some
Yeah.
way. I feel like if you go, yep, this person's got augmented limbs. How so? Oh, we've just cut them off.
Yeah.
I'm sure they still have a great quality of life, but it's
Yes.
not probably not improved it. Is the way I look at it. And it could be with magic. It could be with anything. It was interesting to see whether what we class as limbs. Whether I was really only looking for arms, legs,
Yeah.
hands.
Yeah.
Because like there are some which have like augmented eyes, and I was like,
Yeah.
It's not a
is an
limb.
eye a limb?
No, it's not a limb.
No, it's like. What's it? It's
an organ,
I was going to say an
isn't it?
appendage, but that's not right either. A tongue is an appendage, would you
I
say?
think tongue would be an appendage.
It's a muscle, yeah, but like mind you, if someone bought a game with just a person with an augmented tongue, they might win the episode. But I can't think of a
stupid,
game.
Imagine
Yeah.
he'd win his love life.
Thank you, Darren. I've never seen something kill a room so dead. Apart from
took me a minute.
Darren's tongue.
To click then. I'm not gonna lie, and then when I did click, it was like, oh, he did say that.
I did, yeah.
But yeah, there was a lot of options out there. We still all did buy each other games though for it.
We did.
Should we have a little look at what we bought each other before we think about what we could have bought?
Just for 2 seconds, I want people listening to pause now and just guess with yourself what order the games were purchased in. I'm confident in you guys. I think you'll get it right.
Well, yeah, we'll go with who bought their game first. I bought the game first because Josh always buys the game first. And I was buying for you, Karis. So what did you receive? What was the first augmented limb game to be bought and purchased and sent?
I received Devil May Cry 5.
Funf!
Thumph.
Yeah, we went for the Funf one, which
Yes.
is after DMC. So we're back, but this is back to the original Dante and everything like
Yes.
that. So yeah, what is the game? How is the game? What is it?
So Devil May Cry is the 5th installment of the Devil May Cry series, as we said. It came
Fuck
out
off,
in
really?
Yes, would you believe?
I mean, was it the 6th? Because I didn't know if DMC is part of. Is DMC 4 technically? I just wondered how it all fit in.
DMC's between 4 and 5.
But so it's
released.
so technically the 6th in the series then.
But it's
Yeah.
I suppose it's separate because it was a rebrand.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It came out in 2019 and it is described as a action adventure game that was developed by the lovely Capcom. It
Shout
came
out Capcom.
out on
Love Capcom.
PS4, Windows, and Xbox, and it takes place 5 years basically after the events of Devil May Cry 4, not DMC. And it follows 3 different playable characters, which are Dante, Nero, and V, all of which, as following the kind of gambit of the series really, is they are 3 people with demonic powers who are able to try and fight demonic forces away from the planet, really. And it follows them attempting to stop a demon king called Urizen from destroying the human world. And you go all across this place called Redgrave City, playing these 3 different characters, trying to unveil the mystery of the demon king and kind of stop him from doing all the bad things.
Nice, yeah. So yeah, just continues on, and it's more Devil May Cry. It's crazy mayhem.
It is a really, really quintessentially Devil May Cry.
Cool. I mean, we won't go into more details. We'll go into
that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Who's the next person to receive their game? Because I can't remember how it works.
I got my game next.
Did you? That's a shock.
Who would have fucking thought?
Yeah. So Darren bought his game last, so Keris bought the next one.
I did.
Yeah. For the listeners who are playing along at home, congrats. I'm not even going to entertain that some of you got it wrong. Fucking hell.
There were some issues with this game purchase, weren't there? So I don't know if we want to go into that beforehand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just eBay joy.
So, the game that I received for the topic of Augmented Limbs was Bioshock. So, what was purchased was Bioshock.
The collection.
What was received was the Bioshock the Collection box for Bioshock 1 and 2 with the disc for Bioshock Infinite in it. For reference, we don't discuss what games have been purchased before they arrived. So when this came to me in the 1 and 2 box of the Infinite disc in, I messaged Keris and went, what am I supposed to be playing? Please help me. I don't know what the plan is.
And this all falls down to problems of people going away to university and then asking their parents to sell video games when their parents haven't a fucking clue what they're doing.
Yep.
And that is literally what happened. It was like, I don't know what was meant to be in there. I don't know what's going on. It can all be resolved, but that was the game.
But anyway, Bioshock.
But yeah, eventually you do have the actual collection, so you could
Bioshock,
you could play one.
A much beloved FPS game from 2007. I believe Bioshock was originally released.
Yep.
You follow... You play as Jack, who is on an airplane going over the ocean where it crashes, and you find a random lighthouse. And you go into the lighthouse and you descend into the underwater city of Rapture, which is sort of the idea of Andrew Ryan, who is a man that basically believes that it's like hyper-communism, but everyone is entitled to what they put in, is basically the idea. He has a big famous monologue at the start where he's like, is a man entitled to the sweat of his own brow? Mm-hmm. No, says the president, it belongs to the country. No, says, like the commune, it belongs to the people. No, says the Vatican, it belongs to God. And he believes that everyone is entitled to their own benefit, and he builds Rapture. Rapture then goes to shit. It has gone to shit by the time you get there. And basically you arrive and you're greeted by the lovely voice of Atlas over this little receiver. And you're basically trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. Your initial goal is to help Atlas find his family and to find Andrew Ryan and work out what the fuck he's up to. It's very much sort of classic FPS of the time. The main gimmick of the game and its future installments is you have these plasmids, which are like elemental abilities that you can use to augment the combat a bit, and there's some puzzle solving around it as well. Yeah. Like the most famous early puzzle to do with the plasmids is... in the medical pavilion, you try to go further and you have a guy who's throwing bombs at you, so you need to find telekinesis to grab the bomb and throw it back. But the telekinesis plasmid is behind a massive block of ice, so you need to go and find the incinerate plasmid, which is, funnily enough, in the morgue, to then go and melt the ice to get telekinesis to go back to the guy and grab the bomb. It's a lot of that sort of stuff, a lot of very situational abilities, and you also get fun ones later, like Insect Swarm, where you fire bees from your hands.
Fun, always. Everyone likes to fire bees. Bees?
Yeah, you basically go through the different areas of...
you turn to Marguerite for a brief bit from Resi 7.
Yeah. You go through the various areas of Rapture, seeing sort of how its downfall happened. You run into various people who are still living there and have gone a little bit mad. And yeah, you sort of progress through the different areas and you find out all the fun stuff that's been going down.
Nice, yeah. And that is Bioshock, an old classic and potentially one of your favourite games of all time, Darren.
I'm a big fan.
So it was potentially a very good purchase.
Two or three, I'd say.
Oh, in positions. I was saying I like 2 or 3 more.
10.
I was like, no. I thought you were saying I don't really like 1. 2 or 3 is my favorite.
No.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
Bioshock 1 is like second or third.
Fair enough.
On that list.
And then I was the last to receive my game,
Fun
as
enough.
usual, because Darren purchased it for me.
Yeah.
What did you purchase for me, Darren?
Well, we all said what we received.
Yep, I received Middle Earth, Shadow of War.
Middle of Earth Shadow War.
Which is the follow-on to Middle Earth, Shadow of Mordor.
Yep.
So this is a I don't know how to describe it. It's an action adventure game set with the idea of almost Assassin's Creed-like action, but far more combat and parry-based, almost styled after the Arkham series, I would say, is the combat-based, but it's all set in Middle Earth, and it follows on it from like J.R.R. Tolkien's Legendarium, which takes sort of place between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, is where this is sort of set. And the big thing about this is the Nemesis system within it, and they've expanded upon their Nemesis system, which is the idea of these procedurally generated orcs and goblins that you can fight, and you can like weed out captains, and sometimes they can kill you, and they can climb the ranks themselves and come back, which is like a really cool thing they did. But the actual game of itself is you are playing as Talion, who is possessed with the spirit of the elf Celebrimbor.
Yeah.
And the idea is you've already died in the previous one. You've come back and you've basically tried to rejoin your family after a thing on the Black Gate was there. But this time, the idea is you are trying to forge a new ring of power that is free of Sauron's corruption. And to do this, you need to sort of push forwards. Talion's whole thing is helping Gondor. He wants to help the Gondor's army, helps Gondor's army and the Gondorians to make forwards, while Celebrimbor is more interested in what's going on with the Palantir and dealing with Sauron. And basically, there's a whole sort of internal fight between yourself and this elf person that's living within you as you sort of traverse these sort of 2 sort of planes of existence. During this point, you are also dealing with Shelob, who also gets in possession of the ring and also captures Celebrimbor, so you have to solve that issue. You deal with her as well. I will sort of spoil where the game goes because I think the ending's pretty cool. But you're fighting through. You have to then get the ring back in your possession. You do eventually try and take on Sauron. You fight him where you find that other people have died in the process and they've turned into Nazgul. So your friends are now like these raids. You then work out Celebrimbor is actually trying to not kill Sauron, but possess Sauron to become essentially the most powerful creature in existence.
Yeah.
You don't agree with that, and you decide to not listen to him, and in turn, you turn into a Nazgul later on, after this is all gone with the ring and stuff, and you are part of the Nazgul that get killed in the flood of the water of the things as you're chasing Frodo, as you see it like 10 years later. So the story is you becoming a Nazgul. So it's a really cool change in where you are.
Cool.
Yeah. So the story itself is really good. It's not as tight. It's quite sprawling, and it's told a lot through like memories and stuff, which you get, but it's a bigger expansion on what the first one was, which was a very close-knit game to one which has like 5 different areas you can explore and take on the story. And it's quite cool because you get to see Shelob as a person and things. So you get to see a lot of, if you like Lord of the Rings, this is like a cool little nods to a bunch of information, and it's all part of genuine canon, I suppose. Although technically, I mean, your Talion didn't kill 3 million orcs by himself or possess them. But like the actual game is you going off with this elf body within you. And that is Shadow of War.
Very cool.
Shadow of War. I'm trying to remember which order. It's trying to remember which order they come in. But I don't think there's looking to be a follow-on to this game. It was the ending of this story.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
Which is it. It was nice and it was ended. And that is the 3 games we received.
Yeah.
However, when you hear Augmented Limbs, you think of tons of games.
Yeah.
Oh, surprisingly, this was a really hard one to find games that worked with it. I don't know if everyone else found the same thing when they were looking for games.
I struggled to get started on this one.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I got started, it was like the gears were turning. Or as soon as I thought of a game, I'm like, here's 3 more, here's 3 more, here's 3 more, all of which are horribly expensive or on the PlayStation 3.
Yeah, I found there were a lot of games that were too expensive to buy. And I think a game that we all thought of, I mean, I thought of it, but wasn't going to buy it for Keris, was Sekiro.
Yeah, I thought Sekiro.
But it's just impossible to get a price that's lower than like 35 quid at the moment.
Yeah.
And I don't want to pay that.
I mean, you should, because it's an amazing game, but not for this podcast.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a purchase, it's a treat for yourself, is what Sekiro is.
Yeah.
But it's one of those ones which you go, oh, this is like meant to be this great game that
Yeah.
from. So Sekiro was up there.
I obviously like.
Went straight to Resident
Evil. I didn't want to do Resi 7 because we've done Resi 7, but I did kind of want, because I know you haven't played 8. And I wanted you to play 8, mostly because there are quite a few characters in there with augmented limbs. Was more my thing. Was obviously Ethan has augmented limbs through his arm. Lady D has augmented limbs. Heisenberg augmented limbs.
If it came with a DLC, who knows?
Yeah. So I did have the idea to do that, but to be perfectly honest with you, I kind of wanted to, as good of a pick as that was going to be, I kind of wanted to veer away from Resident Evil. I didn't want to go with the like predictable pick for me. So I knew pretty much straight away I wanted to go for Bioshock because I've played Bioshock. I really like Bioshock as a game. So for me, it was kind of like, if I'm not going to do that, then I'm going to do this. Like there wasn't a huge amount of thought process behind it.
Darren obviously had a huge thought process.
I looked at fucking everything. I looked at Sekiro. I looked at Cyberpunk for a bit. And then had sort of like the mental gymnastics of, if I buy Cyberpunk, do I also then have to buy the DLC, which makes it better? Is that what I'd have to play? Or like, do a lot of the updates come in the base game, regardless the base game?
Yeah, most of the updates have come in the base game.
The base game, regardless, like £25 minimum.
Yeah, and really you're looking at that. Although you can have augmented limbs, a lot of it, when you're building yourself, you don't start out with them. You have to then get them. But I suppose Johnny Silverhand has an augmented limb.
But I also looked at Mega Man quite extensively, but couldn't find anything. I looked at Metal Gear Rising.
I thought about Metal Gear Rising as well.
His entire fucking body is augmented.
Because it's Raiden in that one, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of the enemies in that one have like these weird like metal limbs and stuff, which is cool.
And I also, on the PS3, looked at Prototype.
Yep.
Which is a very sort of famous game of, he has the big...
I think it's less of a famous game. It's more of a famous screenshot of the. It's almost like I always remember the picture of the cover, and it was massive promo for it. But the game itself was a bit.
I have a recollection of it. I never played it, but I remember it and Infamous came out at basically the same time.
And Infamous did better.
It was the big sort of pair of games come out that do basically the same thing in very different ways.
It's like the films that come out, something like Babe and Gordy.
Yeah.
Both talking pig films.
Yeah. Or like Spider-Man and Mario Wonder, basically doing the same thing.
What's wrong with that? But those not the two you think of when you think of films that came out at the same time that are basically the same?
And I joke, but I also was looking at Infamous.
Yeah.
And like, it's just, I went around so many different fucking ideas and then settled on.
Yeah, I mean, I thought of the Metal Gear ones as well, because Metal Gear 5 I thought was good, but we've already had for it. I thought about Mortal Kombat for Jax, because he's got big things. I was thinking, but then it's fight games. Ultimately, the one that I thought would be best, but was too expensive, was Kirby, because everything's augmented with Kirby. He just absorbs something, but his limbs don't change. I thought, is that where you question it? But also, Kirby's too expensive to buy. You just can't get a Nintendo game like that.
I forgot when I looked at. I also very briefly looked at the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Good.
Has a
I thought about the same as well.
And I sort of veered away from it a bit.
There was lots of good options out there.
It's another one of those where you're not sure if the game will land. I didn't know if the 7 remake would land with you.
Well, I need to play it for my bingo card, but yes, yeah. It's one of those things that, it's whether it'll land, but also I found it was harder to think of... also Deus Ex Mankind Divided, which we made a joke about.
I thought about it and then you gave it shit. I was like, cool.
But I think this would be a game that almost... if you looked at villains, I think there's a lot more villains with them, but it's harder to think of like a single villain with this one augmented limb that would work, But regardless, I think we got 3 solid games in their own rights.
You're right.
That will be interesting. So should we jump into the actual fighting to work out who bought the best game?
Let's have a fucking scrap, boys.
do it.
Let's go for it. Let's pull out our metal arms and slap each other.
Yeah.
Round 1, fight! Yeah! Thanks, guys, for that. Yeah! Like a fucking Russell Wilson. Yeah! Fucking dangerous. Anyway.
No one is going to get that.
Yes, yeah, Darren did. That's fine.
No one is going to get that.
Fuck you.
No.
Anyway, let's move on. So we now fight over 4 categories, which go into 3 points for the person who bought it, and 1 point for the person who not you don't get one person.
The last one gets a person.
And 1 point for the person who played it. The categories are most accurate, value for money, most entertaining, and play of the game.
Did you know that we were playing for like human trafficking purposes?
I didn't.
Not know.
That makes me think I should buy better games.
No, you don't get a person, you just get part of the person. The limb is going to be cut off.
Okay, okay.
Your augmented limb will be a third limb strapped to your chest.
What makes the last episode of turn-based a little bit more debaucherous?
What do you mean? So should we
Fucking pin drop.
most accurate we'll go with first then. So
It's the first one.
yep. So who wants to go first? Was your game accurate?
I don't mind going first on
Go
this
for
one,
it.
just because I definitely do think it's accurate. However, I don't know...
Why is it accurate first before we
Right,
break
first
out
of all-
why it's not?
Okay, it's accurate because there is one of the 3 characters is Nero, and Nero is a character who has 1 arm, and the other arm is augmented. It has different kind of customizable weapon on it, essentially, that you use in combat.
Sounds like an
which
augmented
is
limb
an
to
augmented
me.
limb, and in that case, it is accurate. However, I would say that because
Well, I would say.
Well, I say.
oh my God, fine.
Go on, go on. Tell me about it on your fan vote. Go on.
I fucking hate it here. I hate it here. Right, okay. So there are... Before you start laughing.
I'm good.
You guys are shitheads.
When you laugh, we ignore you and keep going. You need to do the
Okay,
same.
so okay, so Nero has the augmented limb.
Perfect.
However, there are Darren.
There is Darren's in the game as well.
I'm in the game. Hell yeah, I didn't get that far.
There are 2 other playable characters that you play who don't have augmented limbs. Dante doesn't have an augmented limb. V doesn't have an augmented limb. And because you do spend a lot of time as Nero, which is why I'm only putting a little pin in this, in that when you are not playing Nero, augmented limbs aren't really a factor in it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I picked it up because obviously one of the main characters had an augmented limb, and I was under the impression that you spend more time with Nero than the other 2 characters, but I might be wrong. I think it might be an even split. I feel like
Fairly even, I think.
I feel like it's less of Dante's story anymore. He's almost there to just carry these other 2 along. And the other guy, V, isn't it?
Yes.
Has a bonk leg, so I thought,
Yeah, but it's not augmented.
Augmented arm versus worsened leg. Does that not cancel out?
He has a cane, which he uses as a weapon.
That is an augmented limb.
But
Cane.
it's a longer arm.
Peg leg.
But I would say it's probably evenly split between Nero and V. But in the hours that I've played it, I haven't actually played Dante yet. And it seems evenly split between V and Nero, whereas Dante does tend to take a bit more of a backseat, I think, Which is a shame because he's hot, but,
So it does have an augmented limb in there, but...
It does, yes, but it's not the focal point of the character in the game, I guess.
Fair enough. Shadow of War. You are a guy with just 2 regular limbs, but you do have an elf body in you that occasionally pops out and goes dink and blocks things as well. So your limbs aren't augmented, but you do have a sort of spirit body in you. I suppose that's sort of where I imagine you're going with the augmented
The
limb style
idea
of
is as
thing.
well, like you have, if you're sort of going up the towers and stuff, you essentially have like a sort of powered up jump
Boost
sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which you would think is the legs being augmented by the spirit.
Yeah.
When you do like the possession things, or you have some of like the hit
the
and the power comes out,
interrogator stuff,
I think of that as like the augmentation of the... I was definitely going it from the angle of it is improved by the ghost's powers.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
I thought of them also in the case of like, he's still the one doing the jumping, he's still the one doing like the punch.
I agree with that,
That's
yeah.
improved by
I understand that. That makes more sense. It's, in my head, it's me being a little bit more too, I think, literal with this. I feel like it has to... It almost was like I was expecting something when I got before the game came. a different limb. Like that's in my mind. That's how I imagine an augmented limb, and that's me being a bit more
Like, that's
pedantic.
the
I
thing.
suppose,
In
isn't
my
it?
head, I think that gives it less credence as an augmented limb because you have not improved the limb. You have replaced the limb.
But that's what
with
an
an
augmented limb
improvement.
is. But that's, I suppose, what you call an augmented limb.
You've
isn't it?
augmented the concept of the limb, but
Yeah.
the limb itself has not been augmented, it's been replaced.
I mean, that's fair enough. But yeah, that's sort of how the character is augmented. So they are able to do like these quick jumps and runs and stuff like that. And you are much better than every other player in there. But that's the same as any sort of. I wouldn't say this is a MOBA. You know, it's not like a Dynasty Warrior, but like it's that sort of like you are far more powerful than everything else, and you can just sort of because realistically you do just slash down everything.
Dynasty Warriors also isn't a MOBA. Think of a Muso.
That's one thing. A Muso.
MOBA's like Dota,
yeah, sorry, Muso. That's what I meant.
which is why I gave you like the 1,000-yard stare when you said it. Like,
yeah, Muso is what I was looking for. But yeah, it's almost
that sort of vibe.
that sort of vibe where you are much more powerful than everything else. Although yeah, it goes on. Yeah. So that's sort of how he's augmented. So technically his whole body's augmented, but you know it's. The spirit body inside him that makes him stronger.
Okay, Bioshock. Technically augmented. This one's a really weird one, like conceptually to try and describe. Because technically you inject the plasmids into your arm and then you fire skills out of your arm.
Which makes it augmented.
But is it like
It's a limb that's augmented.
It is a limb that's augmented, but also it feels slightly like not right in that regard. I don't know why.
It's just augmented in a different way.
But I mean, technically, it's augmented when that's there, when it's got those same things. But the same as Talion, the second the elf leaves, he's no longer augmented.
Yeah, of course.
It's I mean, Nero, for example, and this is he's got that limb. It's augmented. It's a permanent exterior.
It's just that you don't play that character all the way through.
It's weird, but like I feel like for Bioshock, that is a core part of the mechanics and the gameplay. So realistically, for those moments, it's your limbs are as augmented in Bioshock as they are in, say, Ghostwire Tokyo.
Yeah,
it's that sort of you have that sort of special ability that works during this situation if you have charged something up.
And then you do technically have like tonics, they're called, which are more full body things, which give sort of more to that idea of you can have one of the tonics, for example, is your melee attacks are more powerful. So technically, like the limb that's doing the melee attack has been augmented by having more power. You can give off like a static shock up when you get hit. Seems like the body collectively has been augmented.
Makes sense.
And then you have the different powers. Some of them come directly from the limb. Some of them you like create a little thing that you then throw.
Right.
But technically, they are coming from the limb. They are sort of the empowerment of the limb itself.
So I think we can all say that all limbs have been augmented in these games. So we have got them all there. The question is, which is the most augmented limb, or how you want to argue it. I mean, I'm going to try and fight for what I purchased here, in the fact that if you had a lineup and go, which is the augmented limb, you'd go, that's clearly got the augmented limb. That's not to diminish the other two. I'm just saying that if I was looking and go, that's what obviously the issue is the main character, the character you're playing with, isn't always augmented.
I would argue for what I purchased. I personally think that you have the act of physically augmenting the limb itself. The limb is in fact augmented. You spend a lot of time within that augmented limb, and it is a core part.
You spend
of
a lot of time in it.
Augmented limb. It's there. It's there pretty much throughout the whole thing, and it's very accurate. There we are.
Okay, I'll argue for the game I purchased. If you go by the regard of like the limb itself being improved, then he has more limbs that are augmented. It's one core augmentation, but it's more limbs.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, if I'm being honest, I would argue for you have to inject, and it's only augmented for that time that it's injected for.
But it isn't augmented.
Yeah, I'm not denying that. It's just saying that it's not the limb isn't augmented the entire game.
But it is augmented.
I will like.
You gonna fight for that?
I kind of get behind it because it's not just like you inject it and like a timer comes on.
Yeah.
It is there
Forever.
maintained within you. You have it as an ability the entire time.
So you, as Talion, you lose it eventually towards the end.
Use it at the end of the game, yeah. For the purpose of the game, it's augmented.
And in Devil May Cry,
Very beginning thing before you've done anything.
you like
It's the opening cutscene, isn't it?
What?
You get the arm for Devil May Cry.
he has the arm from the
From the
very
beginning, I
beginning.
thought it was the opening cutscene.
Yeah,
He also has a
gets the
different
from the
arm
very
at
beginning.
one point.
But the other two don't have it.
Yeah. No, I know, but We're all going to be fighting hard.
Yeah, I'd also argue that Nero went backwards in terms of augmented limbs, because wasn't it originally his actual arm that was all like demony?
Yeah.
And then he cut it off and replaced it with a robot one. So he technically went backwards.
I mean, his augmented limb weapons are sick. They're cool as fuck, but it's not there all the way through the game.
It's not his limb.
Bioshock, you augment his limb, and it is there the entire time.
It sounds like no one's going to back down on this, but I'm not having a three-way fucking tie on this.
That's because it's going to go to Bioshock.
It's not going to go to Bioshock. But in my mind, Bioshock is bottom of the
Well,
list.
it shouldn't be, because it's his limb and it's augmented.
I'm going to also make an argument against Bioshock. There's
Why?
a portion later in the game where you're exploring Olympus Heights, and you basically have this like code word that's been said to you, which means you have no control over your plasmids. Augment as a term is to improve, and I would argue that is detrimental.
And I would argue that Talion's augments want to fucking corrupt Sauron.
Yeah,
So
fucking don't we all?
He's a bad
I'm
person.
really sorry, but I'm going to be really pedantic about this now. But yours is not an augmented limb.
She's pointing
It is
to-
a possession.
Do you mean mine?
Yeah.
The limb's still augmented.
Yeah,
What do
no,
you
but
mean?
it's not, because it's a possession from a soul. It's not an augmented limb.
the
It's
limb
a
is-
possession
the limb
from a
is
soul.
improved.
No, but it's a possession from a soul. It's a completely different entity that lives inside the body. It's not an augmented
The
limb.
limb is improved.
And yours isn't with me the entire time. I played most of it as V so far, who doesn't have an
Right.
augmented limb. So
We all
Bioshock
have our
is
so
that
right.
it?
We all have our first choice games, which we think it is,
Yeah.
which is the games we purchased.
Yeah.
If you're going to vote for your second choice game, then which do you think? Which is the one that you think is bottom?
Shadow of War. For me, because it's a possession.
I think mine's Bioshock.
I think mine might be Bioshock, yeah.
Oh, fuck you guys. Fuck you guys.
So if Bioshock is not going to win, Karis, who would you vote for out of Devil May Cry?
Neither of you. Fuck off.
But
Zeros.
No.
you're going to do
This
it?
ain't my fight. I lost the fight. Fight between yourselves, fuckers.
So second place, that means that you'd be voting for,
Devil May Cry.
and I'd be voting for Shadow,
War.
and you'd be voting for.
I'm not voting.
I think it's second she'd be voting for Devil May Cry, which I think places it as the more well-regarded of
So
the three.
that means Devil May Cry would win that
I think
point.
so, yeah.
Devil May Cry wins.
Don't you look at me.
Fight to Devil May
You're a
Cry!
piece of shit. I should never have sat on your game. You're a piece of shit. You're so smug.
Yeah, you picked the wrong enemy.
Stupid.
So yes,
Stupid.
that is the first point of this episode goes to the most accurate, which is going to Devil May Cry 5.
And for the prize, he's getting a divorce.
I think that's the worst we've ever felt about any most accurate discussion.
I felt
Individually, I've been angry about them. No, as a collective group.
Yeah.
I think the issue here is we all actually felt quite passionately for the game we'd bought. So, I mean, I think it's good. I think it's good that it sounds awful that it's come down to this way.
You
and I've
will
won.
think it's
No.
you fucking won.
I think it's
like, if you
good
didn't
for
win,
argument's sake that we all got to argue for a point.
If he didn't win, it would be like, oh my god.
That's the
crazy.
thing. Normally in an episode, you have at least one game where you're like, no, this is bullshit, fuck it.
Yeah.
This one, at least, we were all like,
That's one
yes.
mission positive. So now we are looking at value for money.
For money.
Yeah.
Should we do it in the order they were purchased?
As always, yep.
So I spent £8.49 on Devil May Cry 5.
Cool.
If we're looking at, we do mains and sides and
Mains and
completionists.
sides,
I'm just going to say the times anyway.
Yep.
Mains and sides, 16 and a half hours. Completionist, 68 hours.
That's fucking funny. Why?
because I think
It's S ranks.
all
and
the
shit.
S ranks and
Yeah.
stuff, which is, let's be honest, that's what you play Devil May Cry
Yeah,
for. normally.
absolutely.
Bioshock, mains and sides, 15 and a half hours, 22 and a half hours to completionist. How much did you spend on it?
£12.50.
£12.50.
Bioshock, that's all right.
Yeah,
Really that quality.
obviously that's for the full collection, meant to be 3
Yeah.
games,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's still, but
That
that's what
still
we
has
spent.
never been an argument.
Never been an
Because
argument.
I'm not allowed it the 2 times I've tried.
Nope.
So fuck yes.
Shadow of War, what
Yeah.
do you reckon? How much do you spend for that?
$4.99.
$4.99. Mains and sides, 36 hours.
Yep.
Completionist, 55 and a half. So
Yep.
should we just give the points to
Yeah,
Middle Earth?
I feel comfortable with
I
that.
felt really good about £8.49.
I only play this game for value for money now.
Because, yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue that at all.
No.
No, why would I buy Mega Man, which is like 10 hours for 20 quid, when I could buy Shadow of War, which is 30 hours for 5 quid?
Man, and those fucking hours do feel like you feel every hour of that fucking
do.
36 hours.
Like the only like detriment I was going to give to Shadow of War is it's essentially a lot of like running in fucking circles between that mains and sides and that completionist.
Yeah.
But also, if we're going to argue that, can we not argue that doing the S ranks in Devil May Cry is the same thing?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's where the completionist comes in. I mean, the difference between mains and sides and completionist
It's absurd.
is absurd in that game. It's nothing for really Bioshock. It's an extra 7 hours. It's an extra like half of your game again. And that's pretty much what it is for Shadow of War.
Yeah.
The fact that you have to do an extra 51 and a half hours on a 16-hour game to get the complete. It's just mental, innit? I love all styles. So all styles is what I like looking at, and that's 13 hours.
Yeah. That sounds right.
14 hours for Bioshock, and then 36 and a half hours for Middle Earth Shadow of War. Yeah. So, second point of the episode goes to Darren's Middle Earth Shadow of War.
Lovely.
Last up, we have entertainment. I think this is the one we need to. It's going to be bigger fights over for two of the games. I'll go first because I'm not gonna say much positive about this game.
That's fair.
So let's go back. Shadow of Mordor.
Yeah.
When this came out, I was really excited for when it first came out, and then played it, and I enjoyed everything about it. I thought it was a really good game. Like I put all the time in, got pretty much all the trophies bar that one bullshit Caragor one.
That's easy.
You were so lucky to get it.
I was.
So lucky to get it.
For context, that trophies, you have to kill like a certain number of enemies in
under 3 minutes?
Under 3 minutes on a Caragor. And I was just sprinting and I ran into like two orc groups who had like collided. And I just ran through the middle of them like, fuck you.
Because normally you get a Caragor and then there's none around.
Nothing.
You hit 5 and they're like, best of luck.
Sorry, that is the most gameplay I've heard in my life.
I ran under a bridge and went, oh, lovely.
All works out. Now, the big thing about it was the Nemesis system. And now I will talk about the Nemesis system for ages because I think it's one of the best sort of
It's amazing.
things they've ever brought into gaming, which is that the whole you fight someone, they come back, you've got raising, you can chase after certain captains.
Yeah.
It gives these enemies that could be quite faceless a bit more character. And they talk to you beforehand. They do like a little bit of a gloat. And in Shadow of Mordor, it's quite a short little gloat. Now we'll move across to Shadow of War.
Yeah.
Shadow of War is the issue we mentioned in our previous podcast recording, which is the game that will give you something that's great, then they give you the second one, and they just fluff the shit out of it. I didn't find the story as compelling in this one as I did in the first one, because the first one's all about him with his family. You're like, cool, this is great, I got this. Second one, they've gone, something about a ring, and we're going to do this, and it's not very clear, and we're just going to run around for ages, and you're going to sort of just run through this brown terrain forever full of orcs, and you're going to feel a little unsatisfied as you do it, and you're going to get lost, and there's something over here, but you have to run miles to get to it. Then you have to run over here, and there's going to be miles to it, and it's just... and the story is long, convoluted. The cutscenes aren't interesting, and this sounds like I'm really shitting on the game. It's such a step down in quality from the first game.
The biggest problem I always had with it, like to be fair, I really enjoyed this game. I planned.
Oh, did you? You enjoyed it? Did you?
I really enjoyed it. Yeah. The biggest problem I have with it is, I'm sure we've talked about this on the podcast before. If we haven't, it's a regular conversation that we have about these games. Particularly, it's the Assassin's Creed Origins versus Assassin's Creed Odyssey problem, where it's a bit too unfocused.
Yes.
It's got the Ring storyline, it's got the Gondor storyline, it's got the Shelob storyline, it's got like these fucking flashback storylines.
Yep.
And it all tries to fit together. There's a lot of cool stuff going on in this one. I think some of the locales you go to are really cool. The city isn't that cool.
No.
It's a bit cluttered, but like the ice area in particular,
I think that
it's fucking cool.
It's really cool if you like your Lord of the Rings lore as well. If you're like really into it, like, oh, this is cool. But I mean, I like my Lord of the Rings, but I'm not like, I've read the Silmarillion 17 times.
Yeah.
Like I know
Not
Lord of the Rings.
loser.
But it's just one of those things where I'm not as invested in that world. I think it's really cool, but like this is going, you should love this. This is cool. How about we throw another language at you? Like, none of that, please. And I do think it didn't help that I played it in the wake of playing Assassin's Creed Mirage, which does a lot of the stealth stuff a lot better. And then I played it in the wake of a few other games. I was like, this just doesn't feel like... I'm playing Spider-Man 2 as well. I was like, they got the similar combat things, but Spider-Man 2 does a lot. And I know it's unfair to compare it to these other games that have just come out. But everything just felt a little lacking.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't compelled in the story. And as I said, the Nemesis system is cool, and I will talk about it more probably for play of the game. But fuck me, do these bosses just love to waffle at you?
They do.
And they will talk at you. They like show you lock swords after you started fighting for it, and they go, I'm now going to talk at you for 5 minutes, and you can't skip it. Listen to me say pretty much the same thing in a terrible Cockney accent as the next guy. I'm like, well, I'm definitely killing you.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to change. That's not changing. I'm definitely murdering you, especially now.
Yeah.
I didn't like you to start with. This hasn't changed my mind. That being said, and I am shitting on it, this is a game that we have described before as a podcast game. You put it on, you put on a podcast, you put on a film, you put on a TV, and you fucking clear a map. And just, the nice way is that just don't care about the story. Just use it as, hey, I need to kill 36 and a half hours, this will just wipe my mind.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't say this is a truly engaging game. I don't think it's a game that anyone would want to watch alongside me. I just think it's just fine. I almost wish they had never made it and they just kept with Shadow of Mordor.
Yeah, I feel like Mordor is such a contained experience.
Yeah.
That even though I did like this, I spent the whole time being like, why are we here?
Yeah, I was just longing.
Could we not have done something different?
I was just longing for. I was like, why could we have a different story? Could we have just focused on one of these stories? Could we have done a more contained focus on one of these stories? Break it into 3 games of like focused, just slightly longer. But they just went, no, here's too much. And you're like, oh, okay, thank you. And then also they've copyrighted the Nemesis system, which I think is pretty bullshit.
Yeah. they said they were going to do a Wonder Woman game with the Nemesis
I've
system
heard
in
that.
it. I wish they'd just done that.
Yeah.
As much as I love this game, I wish they'd just done something different.
Definitely.
Because this feels like it's coming off the tail of the first one, unexpectedly being successful.
It throws you right in there as well. There's no warm up to it. There's no warm up. It's not even a cold open. It's just like, boom, you're fighting things. You should know that you are with this person and this is this. It's like loads of names. You're like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, I'm going to take a fucking aspirin and just try and get through what's happening.
Yep.
But yeah, that's this. And it sounds like I've shat on it. But I think... And I know you like it, Darren, but I would argue that you think what I've said there is pretty fair.
Yeah, it is fair. It's one of those things where I think everything you've said is fair and correct, and I enjoyed it all the same.
Oh, I completely get it. I don't get me wrong. I reckon this is a game I've done before. I actually had to, because you only have one save file on here as well, which I think is bullshit. But I wanted to start it again, and I had an old save on there which was 55% completion, and I was like, I can't start at this, so I lost 17 hours of game just to start it again. So I was also pretty pissed at the game.
It's one of those. I have a few games where I vaguely pay attention to the story, but you just glaze over as you're running around, clearing up, fighting, doing little bits here and there. It's one of them.
I also, the stealthing looks stupid in this. You go, now I'm stealthing. You don't really crouch. You just drop your head a little bit. And like, no, I'm stealthing. Like, am I stealthed? I don't know if I am. And stealth is bullshit in this game. It doesn't really work.
The only identifiable feature of a man in amongst Orc County is his face.
So he just hides it in. It's like, hood on it. No one can notice me now.
His body looks a bit weird for an orc, but I can't see his face, so who knows?
Entertainment for you guys. Who wants to go next? Bioshock or Devil May Cry 5?
I don't mind going.
Go ahead.
I don't mind going. That's cool. I should start off this by saying that I'm a big, or I was a big Devil May Cry fan.
And then you played 5.
No.
Damn it.
Then she played DMC.
Devil May Cry 1 and 2 were like the 2 games that I completed first time. I remember getting my PS2 for Christmas, and Devil May Cry was the first game that I played. And fun fact, my parents actually booted up the PS2 and played Devil May Cry before I was allowed to play it.
Nice.
And then had to delete the saves.
Wasn't that at midnight when they were wrapping it as well? And they were just drinking, playing Devil May Cry.
Should we just play it? And they loved it. And I was obsessed with the first one as a kid. I really loved it. So when it came to playing 5, now bear in mind, like, I've had a big gap from Devil May Cry, so I haven't played like DMC or anything like that. So when I got to 5, I was a bit out of the loop actually, because I was like, well, where does it go from here? I knew they'd introduce new people and new characters and stuff, but I wasn't quite sure like where it would go. Would I feel kind of out of place because it's 5? And I really didn't. The really nice thing about 5, and again, I've taken a gap from it, so I don't know if the other games are like this, is that when I said it's like really quintessentially Devil May Cry, it is really quintessentially Devil May Cry. It harkens back to a lot of the things I really loved about the first one. Entertaining is like I've got to be honest, it is an understatement for this game. This game is so much fun to play because it is so barking, and it absolutely throws you in straight away. Straight away, you first come in as Nero. You are given like this little, you're in a kind of tutorial mode, but it doesn't stop it from being challenging, because the first thing they get you to fight is this massive fucking boss, and you know, spoiler alert, you're not supposed to win. So I was fucking shitting myself. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna fucking die in the first 5 minutes of this. And then I did, but I didn't die. Obviously it was to move the story along. And as I said, there's 3 playable characters. I haven't gotten to Dante yet, but having played Dante before, I know about Dante. So I was actually really pleased that you start off with these 2, new people to me. V is a new character. I know Nero isn't. And Nero, as I said, his augmented limb powers are cool as fuck. So he gets his weapons customized by this like hillbilly woman in a camper van who customizes his stuff for him, and he's got 3 different kinds of, they call devil breakers, that when your devil gauge is full up, which is, again, that's been there since the first game, it can be used to do really powerful attacks against different enemies. And then the other one that I've played is V, who is definitely my favorite person to play at the moment. He has the power to summon demon pets, okay?
Nice.
He has demon pets. That's all I'm going to say. So he has demonic powers that come in the form of a massive demon crow and a massive demon panther. And then on top of that, this like
pets.
gargantuan, like rock bouldery demon thing that comes out from the floor when your devil gauge is full and just beats the shit out of everything. And it was so much fun, because what happens is that because he's kind of on a cane, he's a bit like he's not the most physically healthy man in the world, is V. You do your attacks with the demon pets. The demons take care of it, and then you just come along and fucking stab him with a cane to finish him off. And it is just so much fun. The story doesn't make any fucking sense. It's never meant to in a Devil May Cry game. I'm not there for the story. I'm there to beat the shit out of things and get rankings. And that is what I want to talk about next, is the ranking system. And this is something that I fell for really hard when I played the first game when I was a kid. And ever since if I play any game with a ranking system, it drives me to an obsessive level of I need to get it or I'll kill myself. And this is the problem we found with when I was getting my platinum for Resident Evil 8, when I said about the mercenaries, that you need to get certain ranks in everyone. And I swear to God, I lost my fucking mind over trying to get rankings for that. And if I get anything less than a B in this game, I cry. I'm so competitive with myself, and this game is...
I was watching you play it, and obviously they got the A, B, C, D, well, the S, A, B, D, and it's because they've all got like little words next to them as well, which is still like, well, C was crazy, wasn't it?
C is crazy, D is dismal,
yeah,
B is badass, A is apocalyptic, S is savage, SS is like...
Super Saiyan!
I think it's like smoking.
SS is frowned upon in certain places,
is like smoking sexy savage.
I was also going to say, 'cause you haven't mentioned it, the music in this game, just because I've walked in, just you move across on the PS5, the music is fucking pumping as soon as you come in. I'm like,
oh my God.
I haven't played it, but I'm like, oh yeah, I'm psyched
it's
now.
Fucking sick.
Let's get going.
It's for anybody, any emo kid, which is all of us, by the way, who went through that random D&B, like drum and bass metal phase where we were all listening to like Pendulum and Deadmau5 and like all of that shit. And
yeah, it's super edgelord, this thing.
It's very edgelord. I will say as well, nice little thing is that they've kept all the noises in the menu the same as the first game, so you get that little boop.
That little dopamine hit as it happens,
and it's just great. It's just, honestly, I have really enjoyed my experience playing this game. It's very good.
Do you reckon you can beat how exuberant she sounded there, Darren, for your cell? Because, I mean, I'm sure you enjoyed it.
In my heart I can, but in the way I present things, no. No, I absolutely love Bioshock. As I said, it's probably my second or third favourite game of all time.
What's your first favourite? Is it Kingdom Hearts 2?
Kingdom Hearts 2, yeah.
What's the one that's fighting for that?
Wind Waker.
Oh, nice.
I love
Okay, I was just curious, yeah.
I think the thing I always love the most about this, because in terms of its performance as an FPS, it is good if unspectacular.
Yes,
The
I would say
guns
that.
feel nice. They all have 3 ammo types, which you can use depending on what sort of situation
I'd say solid is how I would describe it.
Yeah,
it's like
fine.
Yeah,
But where it really sells itself is on the world and the atmosphere it's
Yeah.
built. Like, not many games could present to you a mad underwater city built by one man who's a bit crazy and have
Yeah.
me go, yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
I feel this. It feels realised. It feels sort of well developed, especially as you go through the different areas of it. Like the first area you go into is like this big welcoming area. It's a lot of like bars and pubs and stuff, and it's clear that the fall of Rapture has happened during a New Year's party because all the decorations and stuff everywhere, and you have like splicers going around, which are all people who are basically splicer junkies. They were introduced into the community. They've all taken them. They've gone mad. They've all started killing each other. But it gives you a sort of insight into how they are. Like, there's one you come across earlier who's like banging on a kitchen door because you want someone to let him in, and then you kill him, and she comes out of the kitchen and is crying because you've just killed him. There's a woman you find early on like cooing over a pram, and it's got a revolver in it, and you're like, all these people are fucking
Just
losing it.
Yeah,
But then you find, I think it's in the third area, you find the first person who's still kind of with it. Like, you meet Dr. Steinman in the second area, who is cognizant but clearly fucking mental. He's basically determined that he is being commissioned by the goddess Aphrodite to make the world beautiful.
Obviously.
And he does these horrible scarring, like plastic surgery things. And when you find him, he's got this woman like on the table, and he's like, why can't I make her beautiful? He's just fucking stabbing her. But then you meet like Peach Wilkins in the third area, who is crazy but with it.
Yeah.
And he fucks with you. You meet Sander Cohen later on, who is maybe my favourite character in all of gaming. I love him. He is a crazy artist who's building his latest masterpiece, and it's 4 pictures of dead guys on like a podium, and he makes you go around and kill them and take their photos. And that whole area is basically like Rapture's Vegas. It's all casinos and like strip clubs and bars and stuff. It's just so atmospheric. The gameplay's so fun. You have like the big daddies, who are the core mechanic of how you get more plasmids. Is you need to get Adam, which you get from the little sisters who are guarded by the big daddies. And there are these big hulking like diving suits that walk around the area, and you don't have to fight them. You can probably beat the whole game never having interacted with a big daddy or a little sister. You can just progress. Well, you have to interact with one little sister for story purposes, but you can probably go through the whole game and never interact with a big daddy and be fine. They'll just walk past you, and you basically, it's like walking past someone in the fucking office. You're like, hey, what's up? It's like drill. What's up? But yeah, I think it's something about it for how unremarkable the gunplay is that it still sits in my mind as one of like the all-time great first-person shooters. And it's because you have the plasmids as well. They're all like perfectly situational. You don't need to use all of them, but they all have their purposes. Like there's one called Enrage, which is a very popular one that I never use because I'm really bad at using it. But basically the idea is you throw it at an enemy and they immediately start attacking other enemies near them.
Oh, yeah.
So like a good way to do it is you throw it at Big Daddy when he's near some splices and he'll fucking deal with them. And you're like, cheers. I'm really bad at it because I often throw it at someone who's alone and then they attack me because I'm dumb. But you have like Target Dummy, which is a decoy. You have Security Bullseye, where if you throw it at someone, all security cameras in the area will lock onto them. It's just something about the way it's built is so incredibly sort of captivating. It's, I think, the best world building of any game. It's just, it makes me believe that Rapture was real. Its philosophy is so carefully built and defined.
So it sort of helps because obviously this is all the brainchild of one person, isn't it? Which helps, I suppose, with a game like this where you have one. I mean, I'm not saying it's like your Heavy Rains or your things like that, when you've got a singular vision creating something, it helps contain it. And it sounds like, although he was a singular vision, he allowed other people to come in and rein bits in if they were sort of not working. Because you get blinkered when you're on your own as well, don't you? That's the problem.
The way I always feel about it is it feels like every area was lovingly created by one person who thought this concept was really cool.
Yeah.
There's like Arcadia, which is a big garden essentially that's dying, and you go and help a woman build a cure for it. There's, as I said, Fort Frolic, where there's this crazy guy who wants to take photos of dead people. There's Hephaestus, where you just need to get into Andrew Ryan's office. You go around this big, like, lava flowing through tubes, big sort of engineering area. And then, obviously, it has maybe the greatest twist in gaming.
Which
It's phenomenal.
just fun. I've never played Bioshock.
You know the twist?
I know the twist. It's
Yeah.
but like it's one of those things. But like I know what it is, and I mean I've played maybe like not very long. I played about half hour of it, and it just didn't. I just didn't click with it at that point. And I'm not saying it's a bad game at all. It's one of those things where I felt I was on the back. I didn't understand what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's an issue with the game. It's might be me on the day. You know, some days you just don't click in it. It's one of those games I've always gone, I need to go back to this. And then I just haven't gone back to it.
I think if you... First time playing it,
Yeah.
the first area can be a bit of a struggle.
Which is why
Because
I
it's very deliberately, for reasons you find out later,
Yeah.
holding your hand.
Yeah.
You want to keep progressing, and it's like, no, you need to watch this event happen.
Yeah, yeah.
And you go through, and you're like, the best example is the melee weapon you pick up is a wrench.
Yeah.
And when you go, you can see the wrench on the floor, and you're staring at it, and you're mashing X to pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a voice line comes up, and then you can pick it up.
Right, yeah.
And that has to happen again for, fuck it, it's a 16-year-old game.
Yeah.
Let's spoil Bioshock, shall we? The idea is that you're being mind controlled by Atlas, who is actually Frank Fontaine.
Yeah.
And the mind control phrase is, would you kindly?
Yeah.
And if you're playing it a second or third time, you really intently pick up on it every time he says it. The game will block you from doing things.
So me playing it first time, I was getting wound up.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think I can be. I was like, and it was like, I was like, I don't know if this is because when I picked it up from like I bought the collection.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if this is just because it's an old game or what. So I wasn't giving it the credence it deserved,
Yeah.
and I was just like, "Fuck you, game." And I
When you
kicked it
got
to
to
the
the
curb.
wrench, you'll get annoyed the first time because you can't pick it up, but then you realise the voice line is like, would you kindly find a wrench or something?
And
to break
then I
the
found a
rubber?
Big Daddy immediately, and then I started trying to hit the Big Daddy.
Yeah, it'll fuck you up. They will mess you the fuck up.
They will.
As my play of the game will establish, they'll fuck you up.
And that's pretty much where I went. Nah,
I gotta
maybe
be
not for me
honest, it's
today.
really cool. I've only ever played it through once, so I hadn't thought about the replay of it and how that would, very cool.
There was something I read online that I'd never thought about in regard to it, which is when you find the first little sister, you expect him to say, would you kindly, like, get the Adam from her or whatever, and he doesn't say it. And the reason people suspect he doesn't say it is because Tenenbaum is in the room, who's a scientist who worked on the Little Sister project, but she also did your mind control. So if she heard him say it, she'd know who you are.
Right.
And then that would unwrap his whole plan.
Right. Okay.
And it's a lot of cool stuff like that.
Okay.
It's very clearly thought out.
Yeah. Wow.
Shadow of War does not have this. So entertaining then. I think it's safe to say that Shadow of War should not win this category.
That's fine.
Kerry, so who are you voting for?
Oh, this is hard.
I thought I'd just pass it over to Kerry.
This is really hard because obviously I want the point. But at the same time, I've really enjoyed Devil May Cry. However, I picked Bioshock because when I
It has augmented limbs.
No, when I first
Nailed
played it, all of the things that Darren has said about like the environment being like really encapsulating and everything is exactly how I felt when I first played it. And it was one of the games that like when I was kind of going through a period of not gaming very much, then this was when I was much younger. It was almost like, remember when I played Control and I was like, oh my god, like this is amazing, like it proper brought me out of a slump. That's kind of what like Bioshock was like for me for a little while. And I think I just think it's one of those games that like has always like throughout like the test of time been seen as this one game that is just like super good.
I mean, that's it. I'm not disputing. I just know that in my two things, I bounced off of Bioshock, but Devil May Cry is pumping me up that I'd really like. I don't know if I'd bounce off it. However, it's that argument of which would I rather be playing just for like for a half hour? I imagine I'd rather do half an hour of fucking Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
But if I was going to go, am I going to sit down and like bash out the story? You go, you have to play a game for 12, 13 hours. I think it sounds like I'd want to experience the world of Bioshock,
It's a difficult one for most entertaining because, to be perfectly honest with you, like, I think they're both two very different kinds of entertaining.
Yep.
So when I think about, like, when I was talking about Devil May Cry, it was entertaining just to talk about it because it is so wild and it is so much fun to play.
But I could see you were brought back nostalgic and like, this is so cool.
When you talk about Bioshock and you talk about everything about it, it brings you.
Where are you going, Karis?
I will say the only detriment I'll give to Bioshock is that the second half's a bit naff.
Yeah.
Everything post-twist is still good.
It's just not
but it's like fucking the Farah Missoula and Elden Ring argument.
Right.
Where you're like, my least favourite area of the game is the one not immediately after the twist, after that.
Yeah.
They just feel less love put into them. Mm-hmm. It's still very good.
But it happens, doesn't it? Like, and I mean, it's a story that's 10, 12 hours long. Realistically, when does the twist happen? About 8 hours in?
Yeah.
So, like, you've got your experience. I'm now in cleanup to resolve what that issue is.
I need to end the game.
Yeah.
Listen, I think I'm going to give it to Bioshock.
That's fine. We'll give the point to Bioshock then. I mean, I probably would have gone for Devil May Cry just because.
Oh, well, I was going to vote for Shadow of War. So
no,
I vote for Bioshock.
but like Devil May Cry is one of those. It just seems genuinely like a good fun.
It is.
Night.
I
And
think it's cool. I will say
fun.
I tried it and I bounced off it a little bit, but I need to go back to it.
But it's one of those things that I could have easily bounced off that as well.
I bounced off it because I'm not as in tuned with the score ranking things.
Yeah.
So the entire game is that.
Yeah.
And I was like, do I care?
Yeah.
But
So points to Bioshock. There's a point for Karis. There's a point to all of us going into Play of the Game.
Yeah.
Where I will not win. Where I cannot win. Anyone want to go ahead with their Play of the Game?
I'll go,
Yeah.
if you like. So I have 2 honourable mentions.
Oh, God.
One of them is everything Sander Cohen does. I love him. I think he's incredible. Fucking, when you finish his sculpture, he walks down a fucking staircase with spotlights and rose petals falling from the ceiling and is like, cheers, and then walks off.
Yeah.
Nice.
My other honorable mention was I tried New Game Plus in Bioshock for the first time. That's a fucking trip.
Is it?
That's insane. You basically get everything from a previous save. You pick the save you want to load from, and then you go back into it. Mm-hmm. But it means you go in with your fully upgraded weapons and your fully upgraded plasmids, and you walk through fucking medical pavilion. A splicer rounds the corner, who in the base game would mess you up, and you're like, bolt, shotgun, peace. I made it like 4 chapters in, I think, in an hour.
Yeah.
I was like, see ya. But no, my actual play of the game is an event that I did not know could happen and came to me in a very great time of need. I was in Arcadia. I'd just come out of the farmer's market, which is the area attached to Arcadia. And basically in between the farmer's market and Arcadia proper is a big like forum area. So I walk through that, I walk into Arcadia proper and I see a Big Daddy. And I'm like, let's fucking go. Let's do this. And I start like fighting him. And I realize quite early on that I am not prepped for this fight. Because I've just come out of farmer's market, so I have no fucking ammo, no fucking health kits. I'm getting the shit kicked out of me. And the Big Daddies at this point are called Rosies. And basically their thing is they fire proximity mines and they fire grenades.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm going to fucking die here.
Yeah.
So I start running back towards the forum because it's got a lot of like little hiding spots. And I run around the corner and the Big Daddies follow me. And I start turning into the forum. And I hear the fucking like of the grenade behind me. And I'm like, well, I'm dead. Because it's going to come around here and it's going to fucking kill me. And I'm hiding there looking through my weapons. Like, what fucking ammo do I have? What am I working with? And I hear the grenade land. And I hear the grenade explode. And I hear a noise. I'm like, what fucking noise is that? What the fuck's happened here? What's happened here is that this Big Daddy has been chasing me, has fired a grenade, and what that grenade has hit is a second Big Daddy coming in the other side of the forum. So I hear the aggro groan of it, and they just start fucking fighting each other. And I sort of come out of my little hiding spot, like,
well, this is not
just seeing scrapping. I'm like, cool. And I fucking run out the back of them. I go load off an ammo. And I'm like, are they still fucking fighting? And I walk back, and it's just a corpse and a crying little sister. And I'm like, sick. And I get the Adam, and I leave.
Oh, that's cool.
That's cool.
Because there's a plasmid called Hypnotize Big Daddy, and I know you could use that to get one on your side. I had no idea they could fight each other just in the world. So it's like, grenade, explosion, like they make a really loud sort of groan noise when they aggro. Like,
So the big daddies almost have a different sort of set to the other enemies in the areas, because I suppose the other enemies don't fight each other, but like
No.
only big daddies can aggro them, so they must be working under a different sort of.
Splicers will just fight whatever's near them.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I've seen splicers fight a big daddy before.
Yeah.
They'll just fight. They're working like in rage logic. They'll
Yeah.
fight anything near them. Big daddies will only fight the thing that has attacked it.
That's cool.
They don't attack anything by will. They just go and fight things. So what has happened here is it's thrown a grenade at me, hit the other big daddy. That was aggro
hit
here.
that-
It's
they
hit
hit
that.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're just fighting each other. I'm like,
Perfect.
sick.
Perfect.
See ya.
Sometimes you can't plan, can
No.
you? It just works out. That's great. I like that. Gareth, do you want to go? Just 'cause mine's gonna be boring.
mine is. I've got an honorable mention, but it's pretty basic. It's just something that made me feel really good. So it was playing V, and this is the first triple S ranking I got in the game, which is the highest ranking you can get. Thank you very much. So I mean, it's just boss after fucking boss at this point of the game. And you kind of get into grips with learning to like do your attacks with your demons, and it's all very cool and stuff. And I'd recently upgraded a few things with the hillbilly woman in the camper van, and you know, I was feeling pretty good about it. But then you fight this thing that it kind of looks like what I can only explain to be a cross between like a biblically accurate angel.
Oh, with the eyes and everything.
Yes,
Yeah.
but also having a human body like attached
Okay.
to it with the big wings
Cool.
and stuff. Okay, so it's a really
Typical
badass,
Devil May Cry sort of looking thing. Yeah.
badass looking fucking boss anyway, right? And it comes up and you know it shoots lasers. It's like it obviously got a set pattern to it, but it's like up in the air, so you have to use a mixture of your demons and stuff. And I managed to get a few new combos in at the same time, where it was almost like just like a fucking blue, where I got so many combos in at the same time that I was just like, this is just button bashing at this point. This is just button bashing at this point, but I'm doing so good. And we were just pummeling the shit out of it. And at the end, when you can smack them with the cane, they have a little circle on them and they go pale purple. That's what I was going to say. And I pressed it, and I literally, I've never done this before. He like, for somebody who has a gammy leg, mind you, right? He slides across the floor, uses his cane to like propel him up off the thing, and he's just in the air stabbing this fucking thing in the face with his cane. And it was like coming up with the 3 X's, and I was like, how the fuck am I doing this? Oh my god, never been able to recreate it in my life. But you know when you just started it, you press an X super fast, just like, don't stop doing it. Is this the button I'm meant to press? Am I gonna press something wrong? And then I got my triple S, and it was fucking great, and it died, and I felt really good about myself. So that was like, it just gave me the feeling of like, maybe I am a fucking gamer after all.
Yep.
Fuck you.
Nice.
So it was really good. I felt really good about myself.
It's one of those moments where you just have to mash the button. You're like, I'm worried something will go wrong if I stop.
Yeah.
And I was like, because like I knew what I was doing with the demons and stuff, but the cane thing, I was like, what the fuck did I press to make this happen? Do you know what I mean? And it was just very bizarre, but I loved it. Honorable mention goes to the Panther. Who,
Obviously.
Love Thomas
listen,
Davis.
it just made me laugh. It was so stupid, right? So I've just played this bit where you're it's almost like a platformy bit, where you're trying to get out of the sewers, basically back to the thing. And there's you get up to this little platform, and it is a little platform. And there's a box, and these demon things come out, and there's obviously a little hole where you've come up from it. And I'm like, great, okay, get the crow out, get the panther out. The panther comes out, the panther falls immediately down the fucking hole.
Solid, yeah.
I'm like, good.
Always my favourite.
So the crow is like beating the shit out of this thing, and I'm like, where the fuck has the panther gone? Because the panther doesn't die. It just, so I can only assume that this fucking stupid cat is underneath me, like, yes. So it just fell straight down the fucking hole, and then I didn't see it for a while. It did come back though, so it just made me laugh.
For my play of the game, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Nemesis system, but a specific characteristic of it. So firstly, I I was fighting. You see these captains that come along, and then they announce them. The Push Crimp Man Stalker is the name of this person, and that's literally the name.
Me happy, you eat.
Yeah,
Ow.
but it is essentially Push Crimp Man Stalker, and then this guy starts swearing, "Oh, I fucking saw you already. I'm gonna eat your brains, and you're not gonna be able to do anything about it for 20 minutes." You're like,
I've forgotten
okay.
what Italian sounded like. Yeah,
but that's and that was Italian. Yeah, that's my very good Troy Baker impression. Yeah,
Chris Pratt.
and basically he does that, and I fought him, and I'd already got all his abilities against him, so he was like super vulnerable to executions, to stealth attacks, but like he was a weak piece of shit that was going to die at everything I did, and like scared of fire, like immune against hornets. I'm like, well, fuck, I don't care about the mortal flies. I'm like, I don't give a fuck about these. And I kill the twat, and it's fine. He's dead. It was very quick. It was over. I move on. Then he comes back. We get the Undying thing, which is a thing. He goes, Push Crimp, the Undying. And he's like, I'm back. You thought I was dead. And he's like, got a different little fucking helmet. I'm like, you're the weakest cunt here. Stop coming back after me. That's fine. 5 times this guy came after me. I was like, there's got to be a limit, surely. And it didn't see him again, but I was like, that was the last thing I did. I think I'd been in the area for a total of 2 hours, and I'd seen this same twat come up and go, "You'll never get me." I'm like, I've got you 5 times now, Push Crimp. Leave me alone.
To be fair, he is a man stalker.
But it was just one of those things, you're like, this is insane. Like, I know you've got this wonderful system, that's great, but why? Why Push Crimp? Why Push Crimp 5 times? By the 5th time, I was fighting 2 other captains. He goes, "I'm here again." I just turned at him and just basically whipped a fucking arrow in his face, and he died. He went, "No!" He's like, "Executed."
Actually, like, buried it low as is immune, like weak to rejection. He's like, "I need you to love me." But
that was the play. And to be honest, I really love this Nemesis system, and everything involved in it is really fun and cool. And like, I love that you can go, "You thought I was dead, but I'm not," and it's like, but 5 times one guy. Like, bring back someone else. Bring back another guy.
The thing that's making me laugh about that is at the end of Shadow of Mordor, isn't it? Like you're storming, like the Black Gate, and whatever guy you've encountered the most is like the head of the enemy forces. So it's really like the conclusion. And I'm imagining you now going through the entirety of Shadow of Mordor, getting all powered up, all bolted with every ability.
It's like, Push Crimp!
You get to the final battle, it's like, Push Crimp!
He's like, "Oh no, it's over." He doesn't even have last stand. It's like he comes back, he's just gone. You're like, "Oh, bless." But yeah, that was my play of the game. I loved it. By the 5th time, I was laughing. Every time he came back, I was like, "Why Push Crimp? Why?"
For me, by like the 3rd time, every time I see him, I'm like, "Yeah, Push Crimp!"
It was just one of those moments. I was like, "Oh, fucking hell." But yeah, vote for play of the game then, I suppose. Which do you think is the best play of the game?
Mine.
I think it's Darren's.
Thank you.
All right, fuck you then.
No, I don't think it's mine. I really enjoyed your play of the game. I really thought it was cool with that, but I don't know what it is. I just love the fact Darren has played this game countless times, and he's just never experienced something like this before.
Yeah.
I just think it's a really cool mechanic within the game that you just wouldn't explore.
No, in fairness, I was going to vote for yours as well, but just out of spite, fuck you.
Vote for Revolt.
But yeah, so I think we give the point to Darren there.
Yay.
Which means Darren wins this episode.
Yay!
After
Shadow of War game winner.
After buying the worst game.
Shadow of War is a winning game.
No. You were a winner.
Shadow of War is a winning game.
That means Yu-Gi-Oh was a winning game. Do you understand by that?
When I picked Darren up, he was like, "I'm looking forward to this episode, but I'm definitely not going to win."
I genuinely going into this, I thought I had a good chance of winning before play of the game. I thought I was going to win most accurate, and I thought I was going to win most entertaining. I didn't think I was going to win value for money, but that's where I thought I was going to get my points.
I think this is the first episode. What is this? Our 23rd episode we're recording?
Something like that.
I think it's the first time I've been confident in my play of the game.
Is it?
Like the first fucking time I was like,
It's a cool play of the game.
It was a great moment.
Really good.
cool.
But yeah, that brings us to the end of another episode. However, before we move off and go forwards into the abyss of life and come back as Push Crimp Manstalker, we need to look at what we're doing next episode. So, Darren, it's over to you and the random genre generator.
It is indeed over to me. We have a audience submitted prompt. Hey, it's our first one. I think there are a few in here, but this is our first.
Do we know
one.
the audience member that?
Yeah, shout out to Mustard Mule.
Mustard Mule!
Our prompt for the next episode is embarrassing games.
Oh, fuck me.
Easily done.
I already know what I'm getting.
Just gonna buy Hearthstone on my tablet.
Can I buy anything and then claim that I'm embarrassed to admit my gaming hobby in life? Every game's embarrassing when you're embarrassed of yourself.
The thing about this is that whatever game we buy for someone else to make them embarrassing games, we then have to stream.
Yeah.
That's the
And
worst
I think that's
part.
the hard part, is we could find it embarrassing, but the other person could have no problem with it.
Yeah.
Maybe go for the other way. Just hope you find the other person finds it embarrassing, but you don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought. That's what I got from that. It was a game that I think the other person might find embarrassing.
I mean, I think I'm just going to buy a game that everyone will find embarrassing.
Dead or Alive, Extreme Beach Volleyball.
Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do.
We'll have to work that out.
Yeah.
But yes, so thank you everyone for coming along to another episode. These episodes come out once every 2 weeks, well, the second and fourth Tuesday of the month.
Yeah.
So make sure to follow us wherever you get your podcast.
Love us.
Your
podcasts.
podcasts. If you want to find out more about where our podcast is coming out, where it is, do check us out on Instagram, which is at disccountpod, which puts all our streaming schedules up there, all our episodes, everything about what's happening here, and shows a little bit about what we're doing behind the scenes. We also have a YouTube channel which puts a longer version of this episode up, so do check that out. That is at disccountpod on YouTube, and then we stream 3 times a week as well. All those streams end up on YouTube, but you have to catch them first on Twitch, which again is at disccountpod. And if you like each of us individually, you can find us on our own individual Instagrams at discount Darren, discount Keris, and discount Josh, all with 2 C's. And I think that's everything. There may be a TikTok by now. Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
We'll see.
We'll see. But yeah, that's everything for this episode. That's a win for Darren. It's Keris without a win yet.
Yeah.
Can't lose 2 seasons in a row, Keris.
Yeah, you can.
Well, do you know what? If you didn't fucking fight me on everything, Josh, and actually gave me a point that I deserve, right? Maybe I wouldn't lose. Would I?
It's a fight episode, Keris.
No.
We have
Don't
to
fucking
fight.
look at me and say, oh, you should win. Fuck you. Fuck off. You had opportunities. to help me
Everyone
out.
is fair game in the crucible of war.
Yeah, well, Josh in particular can suck my dick.
Maybe he can.
Manstalker! Bush Grimp. Yes, thank you everyone for listening to another episode. Thank you for being able to play our Force, and we will catch you all next time.
Bye.
Bye.